how exciting it is tonight to have more people waiting to watch this show than are actually on it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hey there, beer
yeah.
tubers. Welcome back to Beer Analysis 101. It's a very small class tonight. And we're going to take a look at Side Launch Wheat from Collingwood, Ontario. Radar's favorite beer, which unfortunately Radar couldn't get tonight, so he couldn't be on here with us. But I do have at least two other people here with us, the smallest crowd ever on this thing. We have a better week next week, but at least we won't be doing side launch again. So let's start off with Ashley Sexton because he didn't make us wait.
Hello.
How you doing tonight?
I'm great.
That's awesome.
A note to the other beer tubers: plan ahead next time. Go out and get the beer. Okay, we're trying to create a nice community and environment. Get the beer.
Like Radar's exact words were, "If I didn't wait to the last minute, I might have been able to get it. Just get shit got last week.
Clear all your plans.
Frank's always on top of this stuff.
Clear all your plans. There's nothing more important than hanging out and drinking beer on a Wednesday night.
All right, so instead of this devolving into bad-mouthing other people, let's bad-mouth Greg. How you doing tonight, Greg?
I'm doing just great, and I just want to continue the thought that if at any point you feel there are loved ones that may disturb you or cause you to not be on Beer Analysis 101, cut them out of your life, or better yet, kill them. Kill them. It's the only way.
Well, I wouldn't say kill, but definitely tell them that they have to understand that beer analysis is very important to them.
Very important.
Everybody needs friends. Anyway, other than that, how you doing?
I want to say a quick hello because this is going to be a long show. I want everyone to have time to talk. So just quick hello. Hello, Nick. Hello, Ashley. Let's on with the show, guys. Let's go.
Bang, bang.
Bang, bang, bang. All right. So let's get down to the beer history for Side Launch Wheat. And it's actually a few paragraphs long, even though it's a very relatively new brewery, because there's a bigger backstory to Side Launch than what appears on the surface. So the story of Side Launch starts with veteran brewer Michael Hancock. After finishing studying at Southampton University in the UK, Hancock moved to Toronto from his native England in 1976, where he started working as an employee at the Molson Brewery of Ontario, back when every province had to have its own brewery. I'm taking it that Molson Brewery of Ontario is actually in the name. So anyway, in 1985, while still working with Molson, Hancock had the fortunate chance of meeting Prince Leopold von Bayern, descendant of the last king of Bavaria and CEO of German brewery König Ludwig, a brewery with a history dating back hundreds of years as being owned by the Bavarian royal family and makers of a famous internationally sold Hefeweizen. I don't know if anybody else here has had König Ludwig Hefeweizen, but it was damn tasty. Not long after this meeting, Hancock quit his job at Molson and moved to Chicago to study the art of brewing. When returning to Toronto in 1989, with the help of Prince Leopold, he opened the doors of Denison's Brew Pub at 75 Victoria Street. It was the brewing for Denison's that he came up with the recipes for two of his mainstay products, Denison's Weissbier and their Denison's Dunkel. Denison's remained open until the rising costs of rent in Toronto forced Denison's to shut its stores in 2003. Hancock was given sole rights to continue brewing his two main recipes using the Denison's name and continue doing so on a contract basis, renting brewing time at various Toronto area breweries, most recent of which being Cool Brewing of Etobicoke. As early as 2008, a group of investors began exploring the opening of a new brewery in Collingwood, a town along the shores of Lake Huron with a rich history of shipbuilding. The idea of a truly local brewery had been gaining traction after people were upset that Molson had purchased the previous nearby favorite brewery, Creemore Springs in Creemore, Ontario, which is not far from Collingwood. And the group had sensed a potential market opportunity. Amongst this group was former New York investment banker and Collingwood resident Garnet Pratt Siddall, who had moved back to Ontario in 2002. In 2010, the group approached Michael Hancock as they were in need of an experienced brewmaster. In 2012, this brewery, named Side Launch, after the way that newly built ships are launched sideways into the water, get that sideways, began construction with Pratt Siddall as its first CEO. In December of 2013, Denison's Dunkel was finally rebranded as Side Launch Dark, And the brewery itself opened its doors in May 2014. Within a few months of opening, Denison's Weissbier was also rebranded as Side Launch Wheat, and the wheat became the first Side Launch branded beer to hit LCBO store shelves. The launch of Side Launch was met with success, and it was named Canadian Brewery of the Year at the 2016 Canadian Brewing Awards. Also in 2016, Michael Hancock stepped back as head brewer of Side Launch, but maintains a smaller role as founding brewer. And Pratt Siddall was elected to serve as chair of the board of directors for the Ontario Craft Brewers Association, the first woman to do so. However, in August 2017, Pratt Siddall was forced out of Side Launch, citing fundamental disagreements on how to run the business, with Al Stewart, managing partner of Pilot Brewery in Toronto, stepping in as interim CEO. Pratt Siddall subsequently stepped down as chair of the OCB. So it's kind of I don't know anything past that because there's no information posted about who the CEO and head brewer is now. But other beers from Side Launch, of course, include the Dark Lager, which we already talked about. They have a Pale Ale. They have a Mountain Lager. They have the Dry Hop Sour. I haven't had that yet. And they've also got a slew of seasonals. They have that are named after famous Collingwood built ships, such as the Huronic Triple, the Germanic Bock, the Majestic Saison, and the HMCS Collingwood Fest beer. And of course, we got tonight's beer, which is Side Launch Wheat. Side Launch Wheat is a 5.3% ABV German-style Hefeweizen, an unfiltered wheat beer that is brewed in the traditional Bavarian style with a 60-40 wheat to barley mix, grain bill, as well as a small amount of hops. They didn't mention out which hops, but I'm assuming they're either German or something derivative. All right, so let's get down to brewery histories, and I'm hoping that's a little bit more extensive, despite the length of the panel. Greg, what's your experience with the Side Launch Wheat, or Denison's even?
Sorry, you talked to me.
Oh right, it's Ashley's turn first.
Yeah, I don't want to skip over Ashley.
See, there's only two people here, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you gotta come on.
All right, Ash, go ahead.
Let's keep this professional.
God damn it. Go ahead, Ash. What's your history with Side Launch? What's your history with Denison's?
Hold on. All right. Yep. There we go. So I've had pretty much all of Side Launch's regular releases that they normally have in rotation. So I've experienced the brewery itself. I've experienced it at various beer festivals and whatnot. I've had the wheat ale a few times, probably more than I've tapped it, but not within the last year or so. I think the first time was going back to 2014 or no, 2016 was my first tap of it. So maybe a few times before that. Fuck, I don't know. It's funny though, wheat beers aren't generally a style I normally reach to. So it's probably why I haven't, revisited it in well over a year. But, I find Side Launch as a brewery, aside from not having a lot of their seasonal stuff, I mean, their regular rotational stuff it's brewed well. It's pretty spot on the styles. They don't really go crazy venturing into like weird flavors and whatnot. So I mean, I appreciate the brewery from that perspective because they're just making solid, fundamentally decent beers. Nothing that's going to blow your socks off, but you sort of know what you're going to get. I just haven't had this wheat beer in a while, just because, as I mentioned, it's just not a style I really gravitate towards. But here we are. I've had it. I've enjoyed it in the past. And that's my history with this one.
Story, and you're sticking to it.
It's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Cool story, bro. What? Anyway, Greg, what's your story?
Okay, I gotta carry this whole show now. It's all on me. Okay.
Yeah.
I've never had this before. No, I'm just kidding. I actually have. So my history started with it sometime in 2012. It was around the same time that I first started discovering GLB, which was really sort of when I first started discovering craft beer. This used to be brewed at the Cool Beer Brewing, which Nick already told us. Cool Beer is located very close to GLB in both the Etobicoke, in case anyone cares or knows. In fact, you can see it off my balcony, but I'm not going to show you. But you have to trust me on that one. So it used to be like whenever I used to go to GLB to get their beers, I'd usually go there. I'd often go to Black Oak, and I'd often go to Cool Beer as well. Cool Beer, they have their shop, and you could have bought Denison's wheat beer there. Now, back in the day, Denison's was considered the best wheat beer in Toronto, and I think it was like award-winning all over the world and stuff. In my opinion, it's a different wheat beer than this. I think it's the same recipe. I think they've somehow dumbed it down. I don't think this is what it used to be, but that could just be the old man in me talking. But regardless, that used to be the beer that I used to always get every time I picked up whatever was new at GLB. I picked up a couple Denisons. And so I've had this beer quite a few times. Unlike Ashley, I do actually gravitate towards wheat beers. I've always sort of liked them. I always preferred them versus, say, something a little more spicy like a Saison or going so far as like a wild ale or something, although that's a little more sour. I've always... Sorry?
American Wild Ale? Anyway.
Or whichever ones are most similar to wheat beers or whatever. But I always like them. I always think they're a really good, refreshing beer. I always to me, this now tastes to me, regardless of what it's classified as, this to me reminds me more of sort of like a Belgian wheat. And from what I remember, the old beer used to be more of a Hefeweizen. To me, it was a lot thicker, a lot more banana-y. Like this to me is a lot more citrusy. So I don't know how much of that is memory, but I do think the beer has changed. I may have changed a lot too, so who knows? Maybe the beer is the exact same, and I'm just much worse than I used to be, which is probably true. Most people would agree with that. Fun thing about you mentioned how he used to have his brew pub downtown. That was at 75 Victoria Street. That was actually considered to almost be a cursed pub. Or a cursed location for a while because now I don't know which order it was in, but at one point Duggan's was there, and then I think it became Denison's or vice versa, one or the other.
It was the other way around. Duggan's was in there in the mid 2000s.
Yeah,
I saw that when I was doing the research.
Yeah, then it became Beer Academy, and then everyone figures, well, it's owned by Molson. What can go wrong? And then Molson still shut it down, and now it's Batch, which is basically Creamer Springs presents Batch. And who knows how long that'll last. So that was actually considered to be kind of a cursed location for a while. So I don't know. So I had quite a bit of this as Denison's. I don't drink it as much now that it's side launch. Back in the Denison's day, they did have the Dunkel, which is now the side launch dark. Now I've never tried that when it was branded a Denison's product. I do know people spoke very highly of it. But you could only get it on tap, and I was never able to find it on tap. And to me, I don't think a Dunkel and a dark lager are the same thing, even though now it's a dark lager. So it makes me
lager.
Is that what they call it now?
Well, Dunkel just means black.
That's rude, Nick.
In German. Shut up.
Anyways, so I don't know how that compared to how it did, but apparently that used to be amazing. I've had the side launch version. I've never been impressed by it. So I don't know. Ken from Black Oak once told me that if you haven't had his stuff on tap, referring to Denison's, you haven't actually had it because the canned stuff never quite was the same. So take that for what it's worth. Anyway, I blathered on long enough, basically talking about nothing. So cheers.
Oh, it's filler. I'm just trying to bring up something on my side because I'm pretty sure I tapped. Oh, no, I did tap it at, yeah, I thought the same thing. Okay, cool. I was just taking a look at my Untapped to see what I thought of it. Because I'll get into my story here. To give you a little bit of a backstory, one of my favorite beer styles is Hefeweizen. I love Hefeweizens. I love that kind of banana clove kind of taste you get out of these things here with that smooth, creamy texture going down. Shut up, Greg. It's been one of my favorite styles to go on, and I've had a lot of them. I'm not going to list them off here. Back in 2012, before the whole side launch thing started, Chad actually, the Albino Rhino, sent me a can of Denison's Weissbier, and I reviewed it on my channel as review number 305. So that's going way back. It's an old Yellow Stove review, if anybody remembers the old Yellow Stove. And I didn't care for it then, and I think maybe it's because I had waited too long to actually crack open the can. And remember it being a bit more lemony and tart, and leaning towards maybe I thought maybe it was bad, but I wasn't really feeling it as much as a typical Hefeweizen I love. Because I mean, before that, my favorite Hefeweizen was like somewhere between Polliner or Connie Ludwig. Excuse me. Anyway, so I didn't really give that one a high rating, but in 2016 when I was up for the Albino Run Over Here Fest, it was the third one, and I'll bring up the photo here. I had the chance to go to Collingwood's, the Side Launch Brewery. It was actually not long after. I think it was not long after they opened. I think it was around the same time that they had actually won at the Canadian Brewing Awards, and I got a chance to stop at Side Launch Wheat. Guy went to the bathroom, and yeah, so it was actually kind of cool to actually visit one of these breweries. And Radar was fast asleep afterwards, cut off of that. But I had a chance to have it on tap there, and I think they actually gave Chad a whole bunch of cans of it. I remember we brought like a bunch of cans back to the house afterwards, and I brought some home with me. But I remember really liking the wheat. Like, I thought the wheat was stellar. I gave it a 4.0 out of 5 at the brewery. And fast forward, I think it was a year after that at the was it 2017? When did I finally do a review on my channel of Side Launch Wheat? I think I'd be more prepared for this. Yeah, for review number 975 at the St. John Beer Fest, I actually did a really piss drunk beer review at the of Side Launch Wheat at the St. John Beer Fest, and I was shit hammered and shouting out Radar. I was just thinking like, "Oh, this is good. This is Radar. Cheers, Radar."
Most of us like to do that when we're sober, so it's understandable.
Well, there you go, Radar. Right. Anyway, so yeah, I really liked it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 then, and I still like it now. I'm not gonna get into what I think now. Just gonna say that I actually really like the Side Launch Wheat. And there's some filler. Speaking of filler, is there any comments?
Yeah. Well, hopefully Craig is back from taking a shit. Eric says, cheers. No Side Launch for him, but Whistler Brewing. Sounds good. Leah's surprised that there's only 3 people. We should have invited more, or specifically a certain individual. Radar is with the 9.0 reviewed snore. I'm sure he meant score. 975. I got to check that out.
I just shared in the comments there.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, so review number's 975. It's only like 2 minutes long, so you can go and watch it after this.
It's 2 minutes of him yelling.
Basically, yeah.
Yelling at a
right. All right. So, have we had enough time to sit down with this thing?
Yeah, I mean, I so I'll go into this, and I think I went into this with the wrong frame of mind. I mean, again, it's not that I'm not a big fan of wheat beers. I just generally don't gravitate towards them all that much. So, I went into this, and I can't remember how beers taste like a year and a half later. How some people can sip a beer. It's like, oh yeah, this reminds me of this beer that I had 2 years ago. Like I don't have that retention. So I was sort of expecting it was going to taste a little bit more like like really heavy banana flavors, or a lot of like heavy clove flavors, stuff like that. Like really pronounced, like Belgian, hef flavors. And then I drank this, and it just sort of reminded me it's not a hef, it's just a wheat beer. They use a specialized yeast, and yeah, you do get some of those. I get a little bit of banana on the back. It's sort of sticky sweet on the finish, but it drinks more like an American wheat beer, which is minus all of those banana and clove flavors, and that's just me. It's super smooth. It's got a very soft mouthfeel to it. I'd say it's medium bodied. Get a little bit of lemon from it. Like the citrus notes come out a little bit more than the banana and the clove, which was more or less what I was expecting. That said, I mean, I only got a little bit left. I got like 1 swig left, so it's I could see how this is a very refreshing beer on a very hot day. But yeah, I mean, I'm not disappointed in it. I think I just went into this with a different frame of mind, thinking it was going to be more like a different style. That's all. So I'm sort of all over the map on tap with this one. I've given it as high as a 4. I was probably drunk at a beer festival, and then I've given it a 3.5 when I had it at home. So I'll probably just sort of park this one right in the middle for personal enjoyment, a 3.75. And probably for
out of 10 or 5.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, out of 5. So 7.5. Yeah,
Okay.
7.5. Jeez, I've only been doing this for half a year, and I forgot how we do the scoring. Jesus,
Pretty much.
fuck. So personal enjoyment, yeah, 3.75. So 7.5. And then for style, you know what? Fuck yeah, for a wheat beer, it's probably pretty much bang on. I'm just not going to call it a half. It's just a wheat beer. So I'll go 8. 8 on this. I would drink it again quite happily. I'm not too sure I would buy it for myself anytime again in the future, but it's not a bad beer. There we go.
Right on. All right, Greg, it looks like you're finished.
I am finished. I'm basically going to just say exactly what Ashley Sexton said, just not as cordially.
That is eloquently.
Eloquently. That's the word I was looking for. See, I don't even understand.
I know
language.
you never have your own ideas. Sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
by the way, here's I didn't even notice, this wasn't even on purpose, but this is from Beer Academy, which is now closed, which is 75 Victoria Street. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that wasn't even on purpose. That was just I completely forgot about that. That's fun. So it's the exact same thing, and I was saying this a little bit earlier too. Is that I know this is classified as a Hefeweizen, but I don't consider it one. To me, it just doesn't have the body. It doesn't have the right flavors. But it is good. I do quite enjoy it. It's, it competes with some decent wheat beers. In fact, I did my own little wheat beer challenge a couple of years ago, and I didn't really differentiate between hefts and wheats. I just kind of threw them all together. I bought every single one from Europe that I could get my hands on, as well as many from Ontario I could get my hands on at the time. For anyone that cares, Weihenstephaner and Iyengar tied for the top spot. This was sort of in the middle. It was middle top. It wasn't the worst, but it wasn't the best either, which is basically where I put this. I think it's a good wit beer. Rating as a wit, I think it's better than if you just sort of wait, if you were to try and compare it to hefts, as they'd want you to. So, I mean, I'm going to say as a wit beer, I'm going to go an 8. It's actually quite competent. It's very easy to drink. It's very flavorful. And this is for style, by the way. It's got a lot going on to it. But again, it's still meant as an easy drinking beer that you can just knock back and kind of forget about it. There's nothing really to think about with it, which is fine. That's the style. It's not meant to be. And I think it does that a pretty good job. But there are others, including I think some in Ontario, that do better than this. As for overall enjoyment, it's 7.5. Still very good. I'm not really saying anything about this bad about this beer. I used to rate this beer when it was called Denison's. I used to rate it as a 9 every time I had it. And I didn't have Untappd back then, so I just sort of did my in a little notebook or iPad or whatever the hell I was doing it on. But again, whether is that my taste or is that my inexperience with beer at the time or has the beer changed, I don't know. All I know is that I used to love this beer quite a bit more in its other disguise than I do now. But this is still good. I usually buy a couple of these every summer to enjoy, and I'll continue to. But it's nothing that's get below your mind. 8 and 7.5 for me. Sorry, 3.75. Thank you.
So basically a carbon copy of what Ash just said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I should have just said ditto and been done with it.
Yeah.
But Nick needs some padding on the show today. So
yeah, right.
I was just tossing up the alley-oop just for you to slam it down, man.
Yeah. The only thing I wonder is like, will you guys call it like more like a wheat beer? You're doing the Weiss roll too and getting all the sediment into the can.
Oh
right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of bubble gum under that.
Oh yeah. This is one you definitely want to roll.
Yeah, because otherwise it just tastes like a straight. Like mine, when I poured it, looked almost filtered until I got right to the bottom.
Oh yeah, if you pour this one,
came out like just smooch.
Yeah, if you pour this one like 90%, just leave a little bit, then twirl it around, dump in your glass. It just looks like a bunch of semen just made its way right into your beer.
Yep,
gross.
100%.
Because I still liken this more to I don't really think of it as a Belgian wheat. I don't think of it as a North American wheat. I still think of this as a Hefeweizen. Just not the greatest version of it. It's not as I don't know. I don't think it's that it's any worse than it used to be. And it could also come down with the age of my can too. It's about 5 months old. It was packaged on May 17th. Oddly enough, I think that was like just before I was up there. But yeah, because I mean, I got like some of the last cans of side launch that were at the NB liquor store before that went off the shelves this year, because I think they discontinued carrying it, which is sad because I actually like this beer. But yeah, well, as for the flavors off this, I get lots of it. It basically starts off with this nice lemony kind of citrusy tartness at the top. Not like foul beer or anything like spoiled beer. I think it's very powerful on the clove and the banana in the finish. And that's actually one thing I really liked about, and I kind of wonder if maybe there's some kind of lineage between, like that's one thing I really liked about Konig Ludwig, the German one, and I wonder if maybe the yeast strain has been carried off over the years. That's the same one that they've been using since Denison first started, given the actual connection at the very beginning. But I don't know. It's not that good, but I do still really like it. And as far as a rating for this, and I swear to God, I wrote this down before you guys both gave your ratings. But for the style, I think it's a pretty good Hefeweizen. It's not the best, but I do really appreciate it for the style, so I gave it an 8. And overall enjoyment, I'm not enjoying it as much as the last time I had it, but it's pretty close. I was thinking 3.75, so 7.5.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for actually making the math fucking easy for me tonight.
It's a nick out of 10.
Yeah, but I won't get into the actual rating until I've got the graphic drawn up. Oh, look, I've got the graphic drawn up here.
Anyone who knows basic math,
yeah,
they don't need the.
There's the overall rating for style and overall.
Can I change my rating?
No,
just to fuck up the math. All right, we got a few more comments. That Kent clarified he was talking about Greg having a shit, but we all know that Craig was having a shit too.
I believe Craig is capable of shitting too.
Very much so. Radar is like, I saw the 975. I wrote last year on it. I am side launch.
Yeah.
He's a big fan.
Should have been on here tonight.
Big fan.
You changed the rating so make it a little more challenging.
You had every opportunity to be a freaking homer.
We did this for you, man. Actually, we were thinking of you when we did it.
So Radar, pay attention. Nick is going to announce next week's beer.
Somebody in the chat has to ask for next week's beer.
Eventually, Nick will. Eventually, when somebody asks, he will. So Radar, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the store tomorrow. You're going to purchase the beer so it is ready for next Wednesday.
Yes.
Keep it in your fridge. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine till next Wednesday.
Just hide it behind the milk.
There you go.
And Eric also called us out of all having the same glass from. Did everyone in Ontario buy that Erdinger gift pack?
But I don't. I don't have the same glass. I'm different.
I didn't buy it in Ontario.
I did buy that. Actually, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where I got this glass from. But I think everyone.
What the hell, Ewert? Get out of here. Good.
That felt good.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah, so Lee's Russell is saying, what's next week's beer, ass clowns? Well, if you look at the calendar, and I swear I'm not into that kind of thing, but I'm all for people who are. But if you look at the calendar, what's next Wednesday but October 17th? What's October 17th?
Pot legalization.
Yeah, pot legalization day. And in honor of that, we're actually going to do a Trailer Park Boys beer, Freedom 35.
You know what's funny is I'm in Ontario and I don't even fucking. I guess it's for all of Canada, so it doesn't matter. I don't even know that.
If not, I just made a horrible mistake.
No, it's fine.
All right, it's brewed in Ontario. Anyway, yeah, so we're gonna do 35. Do a Trailer Parks Boys beer in honor of weed legalization day.
And then we'll all smoke big fat cones while we do it.
Nah, edibles.
There you go. Whatever floats your boat.
I'm more with the edibles if you're gonna do that.
It doesn't smell as much.
We do not condone the use of marijuana.
Well, if Justin condones it, then I guess we're okay with it.
And he's like, I think I can still get that shit. Well, good. It was either this or we do Green Bastard, and Green Bastard's a bit too new, I think. Anyway, whatever.
So yeah, Lee is still surprised that he can get that shit, and yeah, you really should. It's not that great. And Eric Gilbert was saying it should be the malt liquor. Thankfully, I cannot get that malt liquor around here.
Malt liquor was crap.
I didn't even bother.
It wasn't crap. It wasn't what I would call a malt liquor. It's like a stronger than average lager, which I guess is kind of a malt liquor. But if you're thinking you're going to get Colt 45 or Old English out of it, you're fucking not.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny. I saw at the LCBO that Sawdust City released a malt liquor, and then I had flashbacks from the Colt, and I was about to buy it, and it's like, oh my god, the Colt 45. I'm like, no malt liquor, I can't do it. So I don't know if anyone's had that Sawdust City malt liquor beer. Let me know how it is.
I'll tell you that we're getting into the conversation that should be done in the after chat. But the best malt liquor that I've had from a craft brewery is the Bose one. They did it had a vinyl record on the cover. I forget what it was called, but I remember having it. I'm like, holy shit, this is actually like Colt 45, but done tasty. It was hard to describe.
No, it wasn't Colt 45 at all. It wasn't even close.
Yeah,
it was like facts 10%.
Oh god, I still have to get that.
Hardcore 8.1, DOA Hardcore 8.1. That's what it was. Yeah, I remember having that over at Chad's place. Anyway, we're going into after chat territory. Do we have any last comments?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, yes, you can.
Thanks, Joe.
Basement Beer was confirming that the Trailer Park Boys malt liquor was so bad, and Eric Gilbert was saying that the Sawdust City malt liquor didn't have enough corn, but the Sawdust is all right. So I'm assuming that's what he meant. If not, I apologize. That's it. That's what.
So we started this by talking about taking a dump, and now we're talking about corn. I think it's a great time to end.
I think that's very fitting for a shit show.
That's the perfect.
Yes, segue. It is.
All right, I think we're gonna cut it off there, and we'll start the after chat in about 10 minutes.
Cheers.
All right. Well, talk to you folks later. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Greg and Ash, for being the only ones showing up tonight. And
that's because we love you, Nick.
Old reliable.
Fuck you. Ewart too will be on later. You can come back in. And Jamie, hey, Redbeard, thanks for going to get the beer. Not.
Yeah, get out of here, Basement Beer Reviews.